Well, let me tell you about Bill. It's 1997. I'm 26 years old, sitting in the corner office of William Hawkins, the most intimidating man that I ever met. A billionaire kingmaker with a reputation for destroying presenters who wasted his time. And I was there to pitch distribution rights to our Success Television network. And it was the biggest opportunity of my career to that point. I had prepared for 3 weeks. I had 67 slides of market analyses and revenue projections and competitive breakdowns. I had a rock-solid presentation, bulletproof logic. 15 minutes in, he's yawning. By slide 42, I'd already lost him. He finally cut me off. He said, "Kid," I hate being called kid, "I've heard this pitch 100 times. Different faces, same numbers. I have no idea what you're asking me to believe in." My heart sank. Opportunity gone. I started packing up. But then he surprised me. "Sit back down," he said. "I have a few more minutes. Tell me why you really believe in this thing." So I did. I closed the lid to my briefcase. I sat down and I looked him right in the eye. And I told him about Maria Gonzalez, a single mom in Phoenix, working 2 jobs and barely keeping the lights on so their 3 kids could do their homework at night. But she scraped together $39 for our Success Television package. Every morning before work, she watched Jim Rohn, Dennis Waitley, Brian Tracy. She took notes on the back of diner menus. 6 months later, her income had tripled. Her daughter could finally take those dance lessons. Her son could get the tutoring that he desperately needed. And her youngest got her own bed for the first time. And in her letter to me, she said, "Mr. Hardy, you didn't just give me television. You gave me hope. You gave me a future. You gave me back my dreams." I looked Bill in the eye and I said, "Those 67 slides show you the business. But Maria and the millions like her, that's the real opportunity. To use what we've been given to do all we can." And for the first time, Bill leaned forward. "I'm listening," he said. And I told him story after story, straight from the stack of letters on my desk at home. The truck driver in Oklahoma who started his own company. The teacher in Maine who became a principal and turned around a failing school. The factory worker in Detroit who launched a consulting business. Story after story of people whose lives had been transformed. An hour and a half later, Bill went right to slide 67, the bottom line, reviewed it briefly, then signed the contract. The biggest distribution deal in our company's history. Not because of my data, not because of my projections, not because of my facts, but because of Maria's story. That day, I learned the most valuable lesson of my professional life. Facts tell, stories sell. And people don't want what you do. They buy why it matters to them. Here's the thing. The brain doesn't argue with a story. It surrenders to it. Facts trigger resistance. Stories bypass it. That's why the greatest leaders aren't data dumpers. They're master storytellers. Inside Riveting, I teach you exactly how to do this. How to tell stories that incite action in the business world. I give you the story sequencing method. How to use the right story at the right time to bypass resistance, move hearts, and lead minds. Because if you can't tell the right story, your best ideas will never be heard.
Technical leaders often say, "My audience just wants the data." So why do you say that's wrong?
If data alone persuaded, the best ideas would always win. The most logical arguments would always prevail. But you and I both know that that's not how the world works. The Ford F-Series is America's top-selling vehicle, even though statistically there are safer and more reliable options. Ford sells a story of toughness, of being the backbone of America, not just horsepower. The iPhone isn't the most advanced piece of tech on the market, but Apple doesn't sell processors and specs. They sell a story of belonging to a movement of innovation. The Big Mac most certainly isn't the best tasting burger, but McDonald's has packaged a story of consistency and familiarity and convenience that made it a global icon. Here's the common thread. They didn't win because of data. They won because of story. They communicated more effectively. They packaged themselves more compellingly. They made people feel something before they ever thought about the facts. The same goes with people, and you've seen it. The less qualified person gets promoted over somebody more talented. The louder startup with average tech raises millions, while the brilliant one starves. It happens every single day. Why? Because people don't make decisions based on data. They make them based on emotion. And then they use the data as a crutch to justify what their heart has already decided. If data alone worked, no one would smoke. No one would eat junk food. Everybody would eat kale, go to the gym, and max out their retirement accounts. The data is overwhelming, but the data doesn't move people. Desire does. Fear does. Hope does. Your audience doesn't want more data. They want meaning. They want to know why it matters to them, their career, their customers, their future. So when a leader says, my audience just wants the data, what they're really saying is, I don't know how to make my data matter. That's the real obstacle to influence. Inside Riveting, I teach leaders how to package data inside a story, how to turn information into transformation. Because the data might win the argument, but only the story is what wins the deal.